Hey, what's good, y'all? It's C Will, and this is the Passive Income Network. On this podcast, we talk about investing in assets that produce passive income. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment and say what's good. On this episode, we have a special podcast feature with Chris Santos of Affinity BSC. Welcome to the show, or welcome
Hey,
back.
thanks. Yeah, thanks, Sue. Well, appreciate you having me back.
Most definitely. How you been?
Man, been real good. It's been one hell of a ride so far, man. But I got no complaints.
Excellent. That's great. All right, let's dive in. Can you start with an introduction again to the audience who don't know who you are and break down what y'all building?
Yeah, man. So I'm Chris. Like I said, I'm Chris Santos. I'm the CEO of Affinity Innovations. We are the company that is producing blockchain technology products on a multitude of platforms. We've been around now for about 2 years, and just we continue to build. We have our flagship platform called Adapt that I'm sure we'll talk about,
Yep.
and a number of other things in our pipeline. Really, what we're focusing on is trying to bring technology to the space that's going to make it easier for individuals to onboard, to move their assets around, to do what they need to do. Because as we know, crypto and blockchain is not an easy thing to get into. It's not even that incredibly easy when you've been in it for a while. A lot of
Facts.
mistakes happen. A lot of education needs to happen. So we're focused on making sure that that's a thing that's going to move us forward.
Excellent. And yes, this space is really tricky. Right now, we're in the bear market, so things are even more trickier and spicy. So you got to be careful. And then also, I also believe right now is a great time to get educated and then prepare as we slowly enter it to another bull run. We do know it's coming at some point.
Yes.
Yeah, so can we break down a little bit more about like what y'all been up to that since we last spoke in January, and then give them an update of some of y'all accomplishments or things that y'all been up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, last we spoke in January, we were still in the midst of, kind of bringing Adapt to its final stage and what we want to see it. And really, when we say final stage, when you're talking software, especially in the blockchain industry, you're never really at the final stage.
No.
But where we're comfortable to say that this is a polished product, something that we can continue to build on, bolt on additional items to it and options for anybody that wants to use it. A little background on Adapt. So it's a web platform that is at adapt.exchange that allows any user that comes along and logs into that site and connects their wallet to create a profile with a username, a bio. You can put your profile picture up there, anything you want. And that username now becomes your identity to move assets across a multitude of blockchains. Right now, we're on BSC and also Ethereum. So, for instance, if I wanted to send Will some whatever token, some USDC or whatever, I can just look him up, assuming that he had an adapt name that was Will. I can type
Yep.
in his name, select USDC, whatever amount I want, and hit send and send it right to him. Never have to contact him for his wallet address. Don't copy and paste. No making mistakes. Anything like that. There are a number of other products that are built into Adapt as well. So what we've done since then is, like I said, we've gotten that polished up. It's looking really, really good. New UI. We've also introduced a mobile application for it. So we've spent the last I don't know how long, close to a year,
Mhm.
building this mobile app for both Android and iOS. It functions almost identical to the web platform. And when you download the app, which is currently in beta, but not for very long, we're talking could be either today or tomorrow. We're going to be pushing that out to full release. So we're really, really excited about that.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know that the feedback has been great. These I what's it called? I readable names, right? If that's the right phrase, they're a game changer.
Yep.
And definitely because when I first got into crypto too, I was looking at all the strings of letters, and then you got like depending on what blockchain you on, you got some numbers in there, you have some little decimals. So transferring crypto with names is a lot easier, and it makes us feel more like we're using a cell phone at that point, which is where we're
Yeah.
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, we're used to using platforms like that every day. Who doesn't use Venmo or PayPal or Cash App or any of those? Same
exactly,
idea.
because Yeah, it is like we got our phone number, and then we turn that phone number into a contact name, and we got our blockchain address. We turn that into a readable name as well. Okay, what's your experience been like building on Binance, and how is it a little bit different or so from, let's say, a Ethereum or Algorand?
I got to be honest, right? So, finance is known for being kind of, they call it the shitcoin haven.
Yes.
I mean, it really is. Binance itself, the chain, the technology that it was forked from Ethereum.
Yep.
So it's very very similar, but the chain itself has been easy to work with, mainly because there's a lot of resources out there that are based on Ethereum. It's identical
Hmm.
to build on. As a matter of fact, if you build on one, you can basically just take the same smart contracts or whatever and deploy them on the other chain.
Oh wow.
Um, as far as the community goes, our community has been great. There's a lot of great people out there. The trouble is in right now, and this is not just Binance, but it's exasperated on Binance, is the lottery system with crypto right now, where it
Mm.
seems to be focused most on how can we flip assets to make the most money in an hour or two or a couple days.
Yes.
So when you're trying to build and you're trying to build useful and viable products, it gets a little difficult, especially on Binance, with that chain being so focused on that type of attitude. Ethereum is sort of has underlying aspects of that as well. It
Hmm.
definitely has its versions of scams and shit coins
The
and all that kind of thing
Pepe and
too.
all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Which helps bring attention to the space, which is great. But on the flip side, there are some things that hurt. Like I said, valuable companies and people trying to build some things that should get more attention than they don't, and that doesn't just stop at us. There's a lot of companies out there in the same boat.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, it's been great, but it definitely has its downsides.
Yeah, definitely. I hear that. I use, I probably actually use Binance a lot more than I have used Ethereum because of those gas fees.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty reasonable. Okay, let's dive a little bit more on the mobile app. So iOS and Google, which means that pretty much anyone in the world with an Android or an iPhone can get on it. Can you break down any more features or other insights you'd like the audience to know about the mobile app?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the mobile app, it'll connect to just about any mobile wallet that you have. Obviously, currently it's cross chain to Binance and Ethereum at the moment.
Yep.
And what we're doing is we're looking at, and I can get more into this here in a little bit. We're looking at utilizing Layer Zero with OmniChain and a couple other things to really create the bridges across just about every network. Because, like you said, when you're looking at a public key wallet address, they're different. When you look at EVM, for the most part, the wallet addresses are the same.
Yep.
In when I say EVM, it's the Ethereum network. So anything like Binance and Ethereum and chains that are built off of that EVM are going to have the same address. So it's
Mm.
fairly easy for us to say, here's my name, it's Chris, and link that one address to it. So when you send anything to it, no matter what network you're on, it's going to get to my wallet. Where it gets a little more tricky is when you break off into these other networks that have different public key addresses that don't line up, and we need to associate those addresses with that same username, which we're in the process of doing. And utilizing Layer Zero is going to help us a lot with that. And then obviously we have some things to do on the back end. But what we're attempting to do, and what will work out great with the mobile app, because like we said, if we're trying to make this a tool similar to, say, like a Venmo, I don't
Yep.
want you to have to go look up somebody's anything. I just want you to know their name, whatever their
Yes.
username is. And unlike things like, uh, like the ENS names, where that works off of one network, we want
Yes.
one username for every single network. So it does not matter if I send you anything from any chain, whether it be Algorand, whether it be Solana, whether it be whatever, I still only need that one name, and you will get those funds.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier, for sure. And you mentioned, see, that's another thing that since there are so many public and blockchains that are popular, it does get really confusing. The user things, most users that are not deep into crypto think blockchain just mean Bitcoin or Ethereum, but it's
Yep.
a lot, or crypto means that's a lot more. And then you mentioned like what's it called? Drop is a app that got chosen to work with like Fed now. You mentioned Cash App, PayPal. So is Adapt the app is working sort of like a payment processor plus transfers of coins?
Yep, that's what we're working towards. So when we're looking at Adapt, the next step for it actually is we're going to be incorporating an affiliate program. So
Ah,
that is the next thing in our pipeline. So with the mobile app full release, this allows us to now move on to the affiliate program. What that's going to allow people to do, like yourself or anybody else that's watching, is you'll have an affiliate link, and you can send that to whoever, recommend them if they sign up. Now, the great thing about our affiliate is it's not a one-time thing. When you look at a lot of these mobile apps, you
mhm.
get somebody to sign up and you might get a bonus of say $20 or you might get whatever
Yeah.
it may be. With ours, you get a lifetime. It's in perpetuity to earn anything that they do. So it's
Hmm.
not going to increase our fee. Our fee will remain the 0.75. But what happens is now you get a piece of that 0.75. So anytime you refer somebody, and we don't know exactly what that's going to be yet. We still have a lot of testing to do.
Yep.
But let's say it's point 0.1 or 0.2 of every transaction they make will now go to you rather than to us. So again, like I said, the fee won't increase on any other user, but you're going to get a piece of that
Get a
for every
piece.
single person you refer. So
Oh
we're
man.
pretty excited about that. That's something that's very, it helps with marketing as well. It also helps with that passive income like you're talking
Yeah, I
about.
was about to say the passive income. Definitely like to wake up to some money. So
Yeah.
yes. All right. Can we go to layer zero? Can you break down what layer zero is? It's a buzzword for me. I haven't looked too deep into it.
Yeah, so Layer Zero is a series of smart contracts that allows really the integration of multiple chains to bridge into multiple chains in a much easier fashion to allow them to communicate. Basically, like when you're deploying Layer Zero, it's almost like you've already deployed onto every other chain based
Mm,
on the protocol, but you do have to drop a smart contract on the other chains. But they interact very, very seamlessly through this protocol.
oh, nice.
There's a lot of technical details you can get in with it, but
Mhm.
it's really interesting the way this thing works at such. It's called Layer Zero for a reason. It works at such a low level that communicating through it. So when we want to have a token branched on multiple chains, this is really the way we want to go. Which is why,
Mm.
and this is probably a good time to talk about why we kind of backed off of doing the bridge to Algorand. So
Yeah, let's
we
talk
were
about it.
last time we talked, we were discussing and in the midst of launching a bridge to Algorand from Binance using their stake proofs. A couple things changed with that. One, as we're in the middle of developing, some of our resources, some of the individuals that we were talking to and communicating with on the Algorand side, kind of fell off. I know there was a lot of stuff going on around that
Yeah,
time.
a lot.
It,
Yeah.
yeah, and it became very difficult to communicate with the individuals we needed to make sure that we were getting the resources we wanted. Because again, we talked about when we implement things, we want to do it the right way.
Exactly.
And I wanted to utilize their technology in the right way, and that became very difficult to get that information, that support. Um, also, it seemed as though some of the interest was going in other directions and not necessarily, wanting a bridge up at that time. Also, at the same time, that's when we were discovering things like Layer Zero, and discovering things like Stargate, which is
Mm.
the ability to house one liquidity and tap that into multiple blockchains. Because one thing that's important to note when you're bridging over to any chain the traditional way, you need to establish a liquidity pool.
Yes.
And in order to establish a liquidity pool, those funds have to come from somewhere. All right. So it makes it very difficult when you're trying to establish on multiple chains and have to establish multiple liquidity pools. Again, that money has to come from somewhere, and we're in a bear
Yes.
market. So,
Yeah. And that's another thing I keep hearing as well. It's kind of like Algorand and some other cryptos are just kind of in their own world. And then you got the rest of the EVM world where which is seems like 90% of all crypto is there and it's being interoperable and faster. You know, the optimisms and all of that is just scaling up the speed, which is what most people are looking for. So it makes sense that you guys are like, okay, we'll just move, over into a different space, which I don't think is a problem at all.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. This is
Yeah.
not that we're not going to ever be on Algorand. We really want to. I love their technology. I love everything about what they're doing. It's just we had to take a step back when we started kind of losing those resources and that
Yep.
connection, and they were doing their own thing, and I didn't want to, rock their boat too much while they were trying to sort out some things. So we
The
just took a
tiny, it
step
was
back
at
and
the
kept
my
pushing forward.
algo hack and
Yeah,
all of that was happening.
yeah,
So yeah,
yep.
yeah, they still got a few things to figure out, slowly but surely. I think it's
Hmm.
happening because the tech is amazing, but you gotta keep it pushing if you need to.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so about the Adapt app some more. What are all the coins or tokens that you can send or receive over there?
Ooh, tomato list.
Too
I would
many.
say
Okay, that's good.
there's at least 80 of them on there,
Excellent.
between both blockchains.
I like that. So we're gonna have to definitely test that out over there. Okay, so the Adapt exchange. Can you talk more about what's going on with the exchange part of Adapt?
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of ties into it as well. Is the next step for Adapt itself, on top of the affiliate program, is going to be an integrated wallet based on smart accounts. Smart accounts, the new technology, a new protocol that's come out on the EVM as well,
Wow.
which is going to allow us to integrate an internal wallet inside of Adapt that is not set up like a traditional wallet. You still
Yeah.
will get issued your own wallet, public and private key, but it'll work with a smart contract. So the smart contract will actually act on behalf of your traditional wallet, which will allow us to implement some really cool security features,
Mm.
such as blocking dusting attacks, allowing people to set up triggers for their wallet if any funds move out. A lot of
Wow.
different things that we can really go through that kind of mimic some of the things that you used to with traditional finance in their fraud protection. So,
Mm.
moving from that into the exchange, our exchange is going to be sort of in two faucets, right? So you got the peer-to-peer portion that is more direct. So with Adapt, it's more about sending funds, like I said, like you'd be using sort of a Venmo for to either pay somebody or just make a quick
Mhm.
payment or whatever. Where the peer-to-peer exchange portion of it is more of a, hey, I have this particular asset and I want to trade it for this asset under these terms.
Mm.
Right now, and I'm sure there are some things out there that utilize escrows and things like that where it makes it a little more secure to do that. But right now, it's kind of a trust method for most people because
Yeah.
most people don't know where to go. Like for
No.
instance, I couldn't name one place right now to tell you where to go to do it securely. But if you and I wanted to exchange funds, like an actual exchange, we'd basically just be trusting each other. Hey, I'm going to send this to you. I
Yeah.
hope to send it back, man. Be a good guy. Don't rob me. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
so we're creating that platform that can allow that to happen, where it's maybe you know the person, maybe you don't, doesn't matter. Where I can post up certain assets, and I can tell you, post up also what I'm looking for in return, and you can either fill that order or we can do custom orders as well.
Mm.
So that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is we realize that there is a need for things. Well, there's a need for central exchanges, whether people know it or not, or willing to admit it. There is a need
There
for it,
is.
at least at this time. There definitely is. We just need them to be on the up and up and ethical.
Yes.
So what we wanted to do is take some of that. What are people using central exchanges for? Uh, you know, trading is
Yep.
the biggest, probably the biggest, on ramping and off ramping, and then making trades. And there's a huge market out there for actual trading crypto. And I do understand this. You look at some aspects of it, you're looking at the technology of blockchain. You got some people that are looking in DeFi to buy and hold and do what they need to do in their decentralized wallet. But there is a huge market for people that just trade,
Yeah,
similar to
like
like the stock market.
futures and all of those options. Mhm.
Exactly, just like you would do on the stock market. There are people that just sit there and trade all day or during the weeks or whatever. I myself was a big trader in the stock market for many years. So I recognize this. So I said, well, what can we do to mimic that and hit that and tap that market, but make it decentralized? Because
Mm.
that's a big problem with centralized exchanges is they're housing everybody's funds together. They're using hot wallets with keys that are, multi-sig keys that are owned, held by people in the business. And
KYC. Yeah,
yeah,
all of that.
all of this
Mhm.
garbage. So we said, what can we do to kind of mimic that, make it decentralized, and that's what we're doing. So we're going to be leveraging other dexes. So you look at Uniswap or
Mhm.
Pancake Swap and Sushi Swap and all of those on top of our own internal dexes. that will do some market making and look for best prices and other things. So when you make that trade, it's going to check all these dexes and make the swap on that particular dex with order booking, with market orders, with a lot of the things that you're used to. Now, the only thing that we're likely not going to bring in anytime soon are things like margins and that kind of thing, because when you're dealing with that,
yeah.
you're lending out people money, and you have, there's a whole lot of legal stuff that comes involved. Not only that, but a whole lot of risk.
Yeah, you got SEC going, hey, what y'all doing?
Yeah,
Especially
yeah,
if you in the US, gotta be
yeah,
careful. Um,
exactly,
yeah, that makes sense. So that's dope. It's like y'all building a Dex aggregator as well, essentially. And
exactly.
I use some Dex aggregators, and they actually do help you get a better price. So I know people that do trade are always looking for better entries and things of that nature. Makes a lot of
Yep.
sense.
And
Yeah.
a lot of it is the user experience and interface too. People get used to that. That's why if you notice, if you go on to a lot of these central exchanges, their interface mimics things like Scott Trade and TD Ameritrade.
Yes.
They're almost identical to them because that's what people are used to. And that's what I was getting back to, circling back to adapt. People get used to that kind of interface and that kind of interaction, which we recognize, and said, let's build our platform after that.
Oh, that's smart. I like that. Okay. So let's slowly start to close out. And can you talk a little bit more on your roadmap or anything else that you haven't already mentioned that you would like to mention or to dive in deeper?
Yeah, I do. So
Excellent.
if you do head over to our corporate website, which is affinityinc.tech, you can
Okay.
see everything that we're building right there on the front page. Is about I think I just updated it a couple days ago, about 5 or 6 different items of highlights. A couple things. One, I'll jump into something that we have talked about or mentioned in the past. I don't remember if you and I had talked about it, and then I'm
Yep.
going to talk about something that I haven't mentioned on your show yet.
Excellent.
Um, so we have a simple diversification platform that we're also going to be developing. Which, think about that in the sense of how a mutual fund works or anything like that.
Mm,
So we're developing a series of smart contracts that aggregate a number of different assets together. Depending, they'll be all be weighted differently depending on quote unquote risk level.
okay.
Again, I want to warn everybody: everything to do with crypto is risky. So there is,
Everything.
when we talk about lower risk or higher risk, it's all risk. But we're gonna put those assets together in different weighted levels, and a user can come along and say, take their stable coin or their Binance or their Ethereum, enter into one of these. Risk levels, risk profiles, and it will automatically diversify into all of these assets. And you can track them all as one asset. And then when you're ready to exit your position, you'll simply just click withdraw. It'll exit back to your stablecoin or whatever you entered with, and you'll
Mm,
take your profits or your losses or whatever you ended up with, hopefully profits, right?
hopefully, yeah. Yeah,
So
that's
this
like
will
an
be a way for
ETF
people to
kind of.
diversify. Exactly.
Yeah,
And
of
we can't call it that again,
course.
because but if you look at that idea of an ETF, uh, yeah, there you go.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah.
be
Okay.
on the lookout for that. There's some information on our website about it, but we're going to also be building that platform out. I think that's going to be huge for this next bull
I
run. There's
think
going to be a
so.
lot of people that want to diversify and maybe just don't know how, or a lot of people that just don't want to hold multiple assets in their wallet and have to track all of them.
Yeah.
Uh, so this is
Yeah.
going to be great. This will actually work out really well for the Affinity token as well. Uh, Before I get into the last thing, I do want to touch one more. We talked about the Affinity token and passive income. I want to, mention a little bit about that.
For sure.
So we are a token on the Binance Smart Chain. Right now, we are still a tax token. 4% on the buy, 15% on the sell, but that is going to be reduced down to 9% any day now.
Okay.
And then we're going to be reducing that down again to match the 4% fairly shortly after. Trying to
So
reduce it. High tax.
4% in and 4% out eventually.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Right now it's 4 in, 15 out, 4 in, 9 out, probably within the next couple days or a few days right after the mobile app is released. And by the way, that's the first time I mentioned it. So anybody that's watching this,
Yes.
now
Got
you
the
know.
alpha. Yeah.
So high tax tokens are they're difficult. They're a thing of the past. But in order to have any kind of passive income, you have to have some sort of a fee in order to reflect that back onto the users. So what we
Agreed.
do is we give pretty much all of it back. I think it's like almost just about 90% of it goes back as BUSD, pegged ADA, or Affinity, whichever two you want to choose, or you can go 100% into one to get that passive income. It is based on
Mm,
volume, so keep that in mind. if you do enter and you take a position in Affinity, and it is based on volume. So without that volume of fees going in and out, unfortunately, it's going to remain a little low.
For
Uh,
sure.
so any questions on that in the future? Anybody reach out? Let me know. Uh, to move on to the big item that we discussed a few weeks ago on our Affinity Friday, that is kind of game changing for us. We announced that we will be developing a Affinity Layer 2 blockchain built on EVM.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and the primary purpose of this chain is to kind of facilitate everything that we're doing and make all of these products native, while also being able to bridge them over to other chains easier, using that layer 0 omni chain and other things that we're looking at for protocols that'll make it easier for us to do so. We realize that we're hitting a lot of walls, right? No matter whose
Okay.
blockchain you're on, if you are innovative enough and trying to change the space enough, you're eventually going to hit walls in the technology, because they didn't build their blockchain for you, right? They didn't know what you were going to build. They weren't looking ahead to what was in your head. So there are going to be challenges in trying to overcome that. So we were hitting that with a few of these chains saying, hey, this is what we want to do, but we can't make it happen because it's not natively built into their blockchain.
Makes sense.
So the idea isn't for us to launch another layer 2 or another chain that's going to house a bunch of other tokens and let people deploy all over it and just try to, whatever. Yes, we will have a chain that's going to allow that type of thing to happen. But we're going to be building a network of side chains to do different things, such as data storage, one for a POS, and then one for our main chain to make a lot of that type of technology happen. When it comes to POS systems, like you said, this is one of the areas that we would strongly want to go into. A lot of these companies don't want to be on a public chain.
No.
There's no privacy, right? There's no certain protections to protect assets, certain security measures. We
Yeah,
can build
and
this
trade
into
secrets and all kind of things of
exactly,
that nature. Yeah.
exactly. If I'm a small business, I don't necessarily want somebody to see every transaction that's coming in and out of my business.
Yeah.
That's not how the real world works. It's great, transparency is great, but not for a business.
Nope.
At least a private business anyway. Publicly traded is a whole nother thing. So we recognize this again, and we want to build a chain. You have private chains out there like Murano, and they're great, but they kind of take it to an extreme, and for that reason, they're
Don't know
getting a
what's
lot.
going on.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of heat from a lot of companies and countries and a lot of entities. So what we're doing is building it. It's basically going to be a private chain with some privacy aspects set up specifically for POS systems and for businesses to run that kind of thing as a side chain to our public chain. And then one last thing I do want to mention about that as well is we are going to also be allowing companies through our platform, through our interface, to launch their own private chain. So if there's a company out there that maybe doesn't have the resources, the know-how, or whatever it may be, but they want to utilize blockchain technology, they will be able to launch side chains off of our layer 2, utilizing our infrastructure quickly and easily.
That's smart, because business to business, I think, is a great model. And a lot of, like, we talking about supply chain and logistics, that's something a lot of businesses do need. And
Absolutely.
a company like Apple would not want their screens and all their parts to be
Yeah.
shown everywhere, but something like that definitely makes sense. Yeah, that's great. Kudos to y'all. I think y'all are definitely positioning yourselves for the next inflow of people and money and things of that nature.
Absolutely. And the
Yeah.
last thing I want to mention about that, only because you're doing a passive income channel with our chain,
Oh yes, we got to eat
one,
over here.
right? One of the things that makes us different than a lot of these blockchains as well is, again, Affinity's in it for the people. There's a lot of people that are building to leverage the people to make things happen. We want to work alongside of the people to make things happen. So when we're looking at how we're going to structure there's a lot of questions around how we're going to structure our coin on the chain. But one thing is for sure, we're going to make it's going to be tax free. Obviously, you can't have a tax coin on a blockchain. It makes no sense.
Nope.
But what we're going to do is utilize some of the gas fees to reward not only the node holders, but just the holders of that coin. So to be passive income holding the coin, getting rewarded based on a percentage of the gas fees that are utilized on the chain.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris. This has been a great podcast. Very informative. So I'm gonna slide you out. Please stay afterwards, and then
Absolutely.
we'll close out with the audience. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, C. We'll appreciate it.
Most definitely. All right. Another great podcast with Chris Santos. Thank you, Chris, and to the Affinity team over there. Make sure y'all go to their website, affinityinc.tech, and I'll leave all those descriptions up in the all those sites up in the description. We talked about a lot of things today, and y'all definitely got some value here. Make sure you leave any comments, suggestions, and concerns below. I appreciate y'all for tapping in. And until the next one, see Will with the Passive Income Network. I'm gone.